Ethan was a bright, curious boy with a sharp mind and a natural ability to understand complex concepts. He could grasp difficult problems in minutes, impressing his teachers with his intelligence. However, there was one thing Ethan never valued: time. He always believed that he had plenty of time for everything. Homework? He could do it later. Studying for exams? There was always tomorrow. Waking up early? Why rush when he could enjoy an extra hour of sleep? To Ethan, time was an endless resource, something he could afford to waste. His parents often warned him, "Ethan, time is precious. If you don't respect it, you'll regret it one day." His teachers reminded him, intelligence alone is not enough. Discipline and time management are just as important. But Ethan paid little attention. He thought his intelligence was enough to carry him through life without effort. Then came the final exams. Ethan, as usual, procrastinated. While his classmates were busy preparing, he spent his time playing video games, scrolling through his phone, and chatting with friends. The night before the exam, he finally picked up his books, confident that a few hours of studying would be enough. But when the exam began, reality struck him hard. The questions seemed unfamiliar, and the problems were confusing. His mind, usually quick and sharp, felt clouded. His confidence crumbled as he realized he didn't know the answers. He tried to recall what little he had studied, but it wasn't enough. When the results were announced, Ethan's worst fear came true. He had failed. The entire class laughed at him. The same classmates who once admired his intelligence now mocked him. "Looks like being smart isn't enough," one sneered. "Maybe next time you should try studying," another said, smirking. Ethan felt his face burn with shame. He had never failed before. He had always been the boy with potential, the one teachers praised. Now, he was the joke of the class. His parents were heartbroken. His mother wiped away silent tears, while his father shook his head in disappointment. "We warned you, Ethan," his father said. "This is what happens when you take time for granted." Ethan felt a deep sadness settle inside him. He had let down his parents, disappointed his teachers, and, worst of all, failed himself. For the first time, he questioned his approach to life. Maybe intelligence wasn't enough. Maybe time truly was valuable. Seeing his grandson's distress, Ethan's grandfather, a wise and kind old man, called him to sit beside him on the porch that evening. The old man looked at Ethan's troubled face and spoke gently. "Ethan, do you know the story of the sand clock?" Ethan shook his head, his eyes still filled with regret. "No, Grandpa." His grandfather picked up an old hourglass from the table. "This," he said, "is time. Watch closely." He turned the hourglass, and the fine sand began trickling down from the top chamber to the bottom. "Each grain of sand represents a moment of your life," his grandfather continued. "Do you see how slowly it falls? Time never rushes. It moves at its own pace. But if you waste it, thinking there's always more, soon." He pointed to the bottom chamber, which was now almost full. "You will realize it's all gone. And once it's gone, you can never get it back." Ethan watched the last grains of sand fall, finally understanding the meaning behind his grandfather's words. "But what can I do now?" he asked. "I have already wasted so much time." His grandfather smiled. "The past is gone, but the present is still in your hands. You can start valuing your time now, and it will shape your future." That night, Ethan made a decision. He would change. He would no longer waste time, but use it wisely. He created a schedule, setting specific hours for studying, playing, and resting. He woke up early, paid attention in class, and disciplined himself to finish his homework on time. At first, it was difficult. The temptation to procrastinate still lingered, but every time he felt like giving up, he remembered the sand clock. He reminded himself that time was slipping away, and he had a choice: to waste it or to use it to build a better future. Months passed, and gradually, Ethan transformed. His grades improved, his confidence returned, and even his classmates noticed the change. "Hey, Ethan, what happened? You are suddenly so serious about your studies," one of them asked. Ethan smiled and replied, "I just realized how precious time is. I won't waste it anymore." The day of the next exams arrived, and this time, Ethan was prepared. He entered the exam hall, not with arrogance, but with quiet confidence. As he answered the questions, he felt a difference. He wasn't struggling anymore. He knew the answers because he had put in the effort, managed his time well, and prepared thoroughly. When the results came, Ethan had not only passed, he had scored among the highest in the class. His parents were overwhelmed with joy. His father patted his shoulder proudly. This is the Ethan we always believed in. His classmates no longer laughed at him. Instead, they admired him, some even asking for study tips. Ethan had not just redeemed himself, he had become an inspiration. One evening, as he sat with his grandfather on the same porch, Ethan picked up the old hourglass. He turned it over and watched the sand trickle down. "You were right, Grandpa," he said with a smile. "Time is the most precious thing we have." His grandfather chuckled. "And now you have learned one of life's greatest lessons. Always remember, Ethan, intelligence and talent mean nothing without discipline and time management. Those who respect time will be rewarded by it." Ethan nodded. He had once been a boy who wasted time, believing he had endless days ahead. But now he understood its value and was determined to make every moment count. With each passing day, Ethan grew, not just in knowledge, but also in wisdom, discipline, and purpose. He had learned a lesson that would guide him for the rest of his life. Time waits for no one, and those who cherish it will always find success. Subscribe for more insights on productivity and success.